Hello everyone. Today, we'll be seeing how fast Magmar can beat Pokemon Red in a solo run challenge. Let's get straight into the video. Earlier in the month, we played through Pokemon Red with Electabuzz, and its Brock split was very bad, but it did make up for lost time as soon as it got access to Body Slam and Thunderbolt. Magmar is not going to have that issue though, that's for sure. But first, let's take a look at our stats. We have 65 HP, 95 attack, 57 defense, 85 special, and 93 speed. And just like Electabuzz, we are in the medium fast level up group, so we're not going to be leveling up too fast in the early game. And with our base speed, this gives us an 18.16% chance to critical hit in Generation 1. And if we take a look at our level up moveset really quick, we actually start with only one move, Ember. This is a very useful move for Brock, because his Pokemon have such low special, they're essentially weak to fire moves if you think about it, plus none of his Pokemon use rock moves. And then at the rest of the levels, we get Confuse Ray at 39, Fire Punch at 43, and then Flamethrower all the way at level 55. It's honestly very rare to see something in Generation 1 that even gets Flamethrower because there's no TM for it, but it's nice to see nonetheless. And our TM and HM learn set gets a little bit of coverage. We get all the usual normal type moves like Mega Punch, Mega Kick, and Body Slam, Takedown and Double Edge too. And then we get all of the fighting moves, as well as Psychic for some reason. I don't know why Electabuzz and Magmar get access to Psychic, but they do, as well as Fire Blast. And with Ember being a very good move for the early game, especially against all these bug catchers, I can quickly go ahead and take them all out for quick experience, as well as easily take out the junior trainer inside Brock's gym. His Sandshrew can get very annoying with Sand Attack, but give it some time, I do eventually knock it out. And with the junior trainer defeated, we can now go take on the first gym leader, Brock. Brock leads off with his Geodude at level 12. It does have Defense Curl, and I would actually prefer if he kept using it because Ember does special damage, so Defense Curl has no impact. I then defeat it, get to level 11, and I'm just hoping I can take out the Onix. I am at very low HP at this point. It does try to waste a bunch of turns by using Screech, but it didn't end up mattering though. But unfortunately at the last second, I get hit with a tackle giving me a blackout. I purposefully did not save before Brock, because I knew if I died, I can at least just keep the experience. Because it's pretty much pure luck whether I win this fight or not. And I end up winning on the second try. And I just realized while doing this voiceover, I forgot to add a blackout to the blackout counter. So if I forget to do that, I'll just add it on at the end of the run. Anyway, the Route 3 trainers don't provide any issue because half of them use bug types. And then inside of the grass on Route 3, I can go ahead and catch myself a Spearow for Fly. I could potentially trade this for a Farfetch'd if I don't find a Paris in Mount Moon. I would have to get a Geodude though for Dig or just buy Escape Ropes, but it is a potential backup strat for HM users. Plus, as you now see on my moveset, I now have the move Bide. There's really no reason why I taught this move. I guess it was just to give me a little bit of coverage. Plus, one good thing about Bide is that it does skip accuracy checks in this game, so I theoretically could use it on the rivals Pidgeotto and Cerulean if it gets off too many sand attacks. Plus, while I'm in Mount Moon, I do some optional trainers such as this last here with an Oddish and a Bellsprout, and I can also get the TM for Mega Punch. This will also be some much needed move coverage. And then as soon as we get to Cerulean City, we gotta ask ourselves the age-old question, should we fight Misty or Rival 2? And no contest, I'm just gonna do Rival 2 first. Misty's gonna be way too awful. On the Rivals Pidgeotto, I pretty much just spam Mega Punch until I get hit with Sand Attack, and then I switch over to Bide, because at least now with Bide, I can knock out the Pidgeotto in one hit, but I am gonna have to deal with the Sand Attacks for the rest of the fight. And fortunately for me, Mega Punch hits the Abra and the Rattata. Although the Charmander is very annoying. My health gets really low, I miss so many Mega Punches, and at the very last second, when it actually mattered the most, I end up missing too many times, giving myself a reset here. So yep, my very first reset of the run, due to Sand Attack. Not much else to expect here. I end up getting a total of 3 resets here until I finally defeat the rival with some good luck. And with the rival done, the Route 24 and 25 trainers don't provide any issues at all, and I could get the TM for Seismic Toss if I wanted to, but I end up choosing not to. Seismic Toss has very few niche uses in Red and Blue solo runs for some Pokemon, but Magmar definitely does not need those today. And then with the SS ticket obtained, I go inside of Misty's gym, take out the mandatory Goldeen trainer, hoping to get level 23, but unfortunately I don't. The reason I want 23 is because I have 55 speed, which is 1 speed slower than Misty's Starmie. And unfortunately for me, I still need 410 more experience to get to the next level, so I go ahead and fight the Innocent Bystander as well, and with him defeated, this does get me to level 23, allowing me to outspeed the Starmie. And now, let's go take on Misty. Misty leads off with a Staryu. I go ahead and 2-shot it with Mega Punch followed by Ember, and then on the Starmie, I switch over to Bide, and I end up getting a very quick loss. My plan is to try and use Bide to one-shot the Starmie, because I don't think Mega Punch is going to do enough, but I need it to cooperate. Use something like Water Gun X Defend. And if you're wondering why I said X Defend, the move Bide is very janky in Generation 1, and while during Bide, if Misty uses Water Gun, let's say it does 30 damage, and then she uses an X Defend, whenever you use an item in battle against a Pokemon that's using Bide, the previous damage gets re-added to the Bide counter. So if Water Gun did 30, and then she used an X Defend, I'm gonna Bide back 120 damage, because I got hit with a 30 attack powered move twice. Because the X Defend essentially just re-adds the damage, and that's what I'm trying to go for. And that is exactly what I get 7 resets into the run. She goes for Water Gun, then X Defend, and that allows me to one-shot. And if it weren't for the X Defend, that Bide would have only countered 44 HP, but if it had went for Bubble Beam, it would have been enough, but I needed the X Defend as well to buy myself an extra turn so I don't die. But anyway, with Misty defeated, I can go head down towards Vermilion. And instead of trading a Farfetch'd, I actually do catch an Oddish for cut. I honestly don't know what I was thinking. I think I forgot about the Farfetch'd trade, but that was definitely not the right play, because Farfetch'd is the only Pokemon in Gen 1 that can learn both Cut and Fly at the same time. I know you may be thinking, what about Mew? Shut up, you smartass. And then inside the mart, I can buy my usual dosage of Repels and Super Potions and make my way to the SS Anne. I'm going to be getting a much needed upgrade here. I can go ahead and get myself the TM for Body Slam. I don't think I need to explain why this move is good, but I do want to explain why Ember is so bad. Even with the same type attack bonus, Ember only has an effective power of 60, and I have a higher attack stat than special stat, especially with Brock's 12.5% badge boost to my attack. So literally it's always better to just use Body Slam unless something is weak to Ember. And with access to Body Slam, even though Rival 2 was quite difficult, Rival 3 ended up being an absolute joke. But usually who isn't a joke can be Lieutenant Serge, because in Red and Blue he has 3 Pokemon. He has a Voltorb, Pikachu, and a Raichu, so he could be difficult, but then again, he's usually pretty easy. Serge leads off with his Voltorb. I go ahead and use Body Slam for the 2-shot because its defense is sorta decent. And then Pikachu is a 1-shot because its defenses are not. And then on the Raichu, I can 2-shot it with Body Slam. And funnily enough, Body Slam actually paralyzes it, but then Serge uses an X Speed, which actually cancels out the speed drop from paralysis, but he just wastes his 1 turn with Growl. I mean, I guess I understood why he did that. I was using physical moves, but at the same time, that was still quite a bad play. And without access to a dig user because I couldn't find a Paris, I end up having to walk back to Cerulean manually. Honestly, I probably should figure out if there are any marts besides Pewter that sells escape ropes. I don't know if the one in Cerulean does, but I know the one in Vermilion doesn't. But it doesn't matter though. Since I now have the bicycle, I can go take on the Route 9 Rock Tunnel Gauntlet of Trainers. Usually there's one or two foes that end up being a problem, such as the Pokemaniac with a Cubone and a Slowpoke, as well as the Rapping Lash Trainer, or even the self-destructing Hiker at the end. But not a single one of those trainers ends up giving me a reset, so I can now just fade out and enter Celadon City. Then as soon as I get into Celadon City, I'm going to get all of these TMs on the roof here and sell them for money, and then I can use the money to buy some vitamins. And today's Vitamin of the Day is 2 calcium. Calcium is generally one of the best vitamins in Gen 1 because it boosts your special attack and special defense because it's known as 1 stat. I also got to make sure I have some leftover money to get 2 Pokédolls because I need to use one in the tower and then another one to get the Mimic TM. And speaking of Pokemon Tower, I completely destroy the rival fight that is here. Although his Gyarados does survive a use of Body Slam and hits me for a very powerful Hydro Pump. That's going to be a problem later, but for now it isn't. Then as soon as I defeat the rival, I have to take on the Channeler with the 2 Ghastly. I start this fight at almost full health, but then guess what? I end up getting hit with a buttload of Nightshades, and because of that, I end up having to black out here because I didn't save. So because of that, I technically get my first blackout, but I know this is my second. I forgot about that one at Brock. And here's something that's dumb. I did defeat the 2 Ghastly Trainer on the second try, but then on the second to top floor, I end up getting a blackout on a Channeler with 1 Ghastly because of some very bad luck, and I end up blacking out again. I really need to start saving in this tower. I just thought things ended up being fine. But then as soon as I come back to the top and actually save, I end up just beating her on the first try. Sometimes I do not like this game. And then with those Channelers defeated, I can give the Marowak the Pokédoll and send it to hell for keeping Fuji hostage. And then with Fuji freed, I can go ahead and get the Poké-Flute. So now the world is my cloister. I can either go take on Erika, head down through Cycling Road to Koga, or go straight to Sylph. And I feel like obviously as a fire type, I'm gonna go take on Erika right away. There's a few trainers in her gym that give some decent experience yields. It's mainly the ones within Erika's inner circle. Or I guess, inner straight line. But anyway, let's go take on Erika. Erika leads off with Vileplume. I'm going to use Body Slam just because it's honestly straight up the better move at this point compared to Ember, because Ember is just such a weak move. But I do often go back and forth between Ember and Body Slam, but it's not like it really matters. This whole fight is an absolute joke. Next, I want to head down to Fuchsia City. I go through Cycling Road and I do defeat the biker at the very bottom of Cycling Road with 5 Pokemon. I know Scott and other people in his community call this guy the biker boss because he has the most amount of Pokemon on this route, and it's a pretty fitting nickname. Even though I do end up winning the fight, I end up poisoned and I faint just before getting to the center, but I don't ban fainting in the overworld from poison because I'm on my way to a center and technically I never entered a wild battle. But if my Pokemon died of poison, then I entered a wild battle, I will be forced to black out. But I definitely did make a major mistake in this run. I should have gotten Psychic and Saffron before going down Cycling Road. It would have made the Biker Boss trainer an absolute breeze, and I probably could have also fought the biker right next to him with a Weezing and a Muck. And then with all the stuff in the Safari Zone finished, I can fly back to Celadon City and enter Saffron City. I'm going to teach Psychic in the place of Mega Punch. For some reason, I'm still holding on to Bide at this point. I have no idea why, but while I'm inside Sylph, I do a lot of the good training in here. I've pretty much memorized where all the good Rocket Grunts are, and by good Rocket Grunts, I mean ones that have at least 1 or 2 fully evolved Pokemon. And then by the time I finish all the training and prepare to fight the rival, I am now level 42. My moveset is still effectively the same. The rival leads off with his Pidgeot. I'm gonna 2-shot it with Body Slam. Well, 3-shot, it was pretty close, but I did end up getting hit with 1 Sand Attack. There was one pro with this, as it did give me a badge boost to my attack, but what's the point in a badge boost to your attack if you're just going to keep missing your moves? And because of that, I get a reset. I get another reset to the rival, and after the rival went pretty bad, I'm like, you know what, this isn't gonna work, so as soon as I die, I instead decide to just black out because I know my last heal point was in Fuchsia City, so I go ahead and just black out to come back later, and I end up back in Fuchsia. So you know what? Let's go take on Koga instead. Koga leads off with a coughing. I go ahead and one-shot it with Psychic, and then the Muck is going to be a two-shot as well. I get a special drop and he goes for Minimize, but neither of those end up mattering. And funnily enough, I get a special drop on the Wheezing too. But, like I stated earlier, doesn't matter, they're two shots. So yep, pretty easy fight. Then as soon as I come back to this at level 45, this fight ends up being a night and day difference. Plus, I end up getting luckier with uses of Sand Attack. But honestly, so far, this run has been going pretty bad. I know Magmar can do better than this, but I've definitely been letting it down so far. And even though the rival was challenging, the final Rocket Grunt and Giovanni at the end didn't provide any problems at all. So now while I'm here, I could go take on Sabrina, or I could go surf down to Cinnabar Island and take on Blaine. I decided to go take on Sabrina right away after picking up Mimic. She leads off with Kadabra. I outspeed and one-hit it with Body Slam. The Mr. Mime survives because its defenses are pretty decent. And then the Venomoth is a one-hit with Fire Punch, which I learned via level up pretty recently. And then her final Alakazam can stand no chance against my uses of Body Slam. However though, before I go take on Blaine, I end up going back inside the Pokémon department store, and I come back and buy 4 Calcium. I need all the special I can get. And then I can take a swim down to Cinnabar Island and enter the Pokémon Mansion. There are 2 rare candies here I like to get in my runs. And then at the very end of the mansion, after I obtain the secret key, I can dig out and go into Blaine's gym. I actually do fight his gym trainers here for some extra experience because, I don't know if you know this, but in the Elite Four, I gotta deal with Lorelei. She's gonna be pretty difficult, so I want to make sure to get some extra experience while I still can. And interestingly enough, I do end up solving the quiz on the next 2 trainers here because their Pokemon give really terrible experience yields. This one right here just has a team of 4 first stages, and the next one is a single Ponyta. I do fight the guy with a Rapidash though because his experience is pretty good. And now, let's go take on Blaine. Blaine leads off with a Growlithe. I go ahead and two-shot it with Body Slam after it uses a wasteful agility. The Ponyta does go for Stomp, but it doesn't do much. I get to level 50 and then the Rapidash hits me with Growl, which is actually pretty annoying. So I end up switching to Psychic on the Arcanine, and I end up getting a critical hit, but that's not what kills it. It kills itself with a critical hit takedown recoil. So yeah, pretty easy gym badge. And now we've just got Giovanni left, so let's wrap up our gym section real quick. He leads off with Rhyhorn. I go ahead and use 2 Psychics on it, and then I use Body Slam on the Doug Trio because its defenses are really bad. I end up using Psychic on Nidoqueen and it barely lives. I mean, Nidoqueen's special is quite decent, but Nidoking's is not as good, and because of that, it will be a one-shot with Psychic. Then his Rhydon is completely useless because against fire types, he will only spam Fissure. And he will never hit because Rhydon is very slow. Believe it or not, I've had a run one time where I got paralyzed with Nidoqueen's Body Slam and then Rhydon actually hit a Fissure. It has happened before. And with all 8 gyms defeated, we can now make our way to the Pokemon League. But before I do that, I gotta take on the rival really quick, and I can just use Mimic to steal agility and use it 3 times. This'll activate the badge boost glitch 3 separate times, and it'll make the fight just a little bit easier. Plus, it'll boost my special high enough to make Hydro Pump not do as much damage to me, but I do get an unfortunate level up on the Alakazam which does reset the boosts, and I end up dying to Psychic because of it. So when I go back into the fight again, I do use 1 rare candy to try and prevent that. and I do end up making it to the Charizard, but then I end up dying because of Slash. But fortunately for me, I do win on the third try. Honestly, since Lorelei was coming up next, I probably should have just used all my rare candies there. Oh well, this run might get a re-rank in the new year, we'll see. And then, inside of Victory Road, I do get the final rare candy, so as soon as I get out of Victory Road, I can use all of my rare candies to get to level 63, and now I have Flamethrower on the set. So now, let's go take on the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. The first member of the Elite Four is Lorelei, the user of Water and Ice type. She leads off with Dewgong. I do use Body Slam turn 1, and luckily for me it just went for rest, so that was pretty free. Then on the Cloyster, I switch over to Psychic because its special's really bad, and thankfully for me it missed Clamp. And now on the Slowbro, I can use Mimic to steal Amnesia, set up 3 times, and then I can defeat the rest of her team pretty easily with Psychic and Flamethrower. That was definitely a really lucky fight. That Cloyster could have easily killed me. Next up is the Fighting type Elite Four member, the Hiker. He leads off with an Onix. It's going to be a one-hit with Psychic thanks to a crit. I think the crit might have mattered. And then the Hitmons have very bad specials. I mean, those wouldn't matter if I got crits. I actually got a crit on the second Onix too, as well as the Machamp. This thing is a critting machine, my god. Next up is the Ghost type Elite Four member, Agatha. I don't think I need to explain why this fight is going to be pretty easy, because I do have access to Psychic, which all of her Pokemon are weak to, but I still need to be careful because her Gengars and Haunter will end up surviving one use of Psychic, which could allow them to do things like Hypnosis or Toxic. But fortunately for me, since her final Gengar has Toxic instead of Hypnosis, it actually cannot use Dream Eater, but I end up dying because of poison damage. I mean, Agatha is just known to give Pokemon random resets for no reason, especially in Red and Blue, so I honestly should have expected it. But I do end up beating her on the second try. Next up is the Dragon type Elite Four member, Lance. He leads off with Gyarados. My plan is to 3-shot it with Body Slam, hope for a crit or a paralysis. And the thing is, I can survive 1 Hydro Pump, but I cannot survive 2. I essentially need a little bit of luck to go my way. And then as soon as I defeat the Gyarados, he sends out his Dragonair next, and I can steal Agility to give myself badge boosts, which should allow me to defeat the rest of his Pokemon real easy. But unfortunately, Psychic doesn't do enough damage, and Aerodactyl knocks me out with Hyper Beam. It takes me a few more tries, but I do get lucky enough to where by the time I get to the Aerodactyl, I have plenty of HP to spare, plus his Dragonite at the very end ended up missing Hyper Beam, so I definitely needed quite a lot of luck there. But fortunately for me, 15 resets in, I'm able to win. So now we still got the champion left, so let's finish this run. He leads off with a Pidgeot. I use Flamethrower, and it actually gets the one-shot thanks to a crit. Sadly, the Alakazam doesn't, and I end up getting a special drop, which is definitely really annoying, but at the same time, it did give me a badge boost to my attack. I actually fish for a few Leers on the Rhydon, and because of those Leers, I have 300 attack, plus I can mimic Horn Drill as well, which is going to be very great for the Gyarados. It was pretty much my main way of beating the Gyarados, and now with the Charizard defeated, we can clock in. With a real time of 53 minutes and 56 seconds, with 4 blackouts because I forgot the blackout on Brock, with 15 resets at level 67, with a game time at the Hall of Fame of 3 hours and 12 minutes. Yeah, this Pokemon definitely has some defensive problems because I kept getting killed a lot, especially in the late game. I had a few resets on Lance, I had some resets at Sabrina, I even had resets at the rival fight in Sylph. Honestly, if I were to come back and re-rank this, I honestly need to do a better job at routing the mid-game, but I essentially did this run without any notes. But if you guys take a real quick look at the leaderboard, this Pokemon really did not end up doing that well. It did pretty similarly to other fire types like Moltres and Charmander. Yeah, this Pokemon needs a re-rank at some point. But anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the run. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. And be sure to follow me on my socials or support the channel through YouTube memberships. YouTube members get access to the patch files for all the backport Pokemon we do on stream. And in the new year, I actually hope to do some other kinds of member exclusive content, because I'm thinking maybe the reason not as many people want to be members as I thought is because some of you guys probably don't have interest in playing the backports, so I'm going to try and think of some other member exclusives I could give, like, who knows, maybe a member exclusive solo run or something, maybe exclusive polls, I don't know, I'll think of something. But anyway, tomorrow we're going to be doing Pokemon Pearl with Mothim. This was another playthrough that was supposed to be done earlier in the year and then I cancelled it, along with Vespiquen. But you'll want to see the Mothim run, it's definitely quite interesting. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow as we continue Daily December.